Philip Roth is one of the greats in American literature, and today Roth is going to speak at length on the number one thing you need if you are going to be a great writer. And he is going to be speaking to you today, a writer who wants to have their work devoured, a writer who wants to let their work transform others. And here on Right Conscious, I talk about the best books and authors of all time. And that, of course, includes Philip Roth. And down below, I'm going to be starting a new playlist on all the Philip Roth videos I'm going to be making. And soon, within the next year or two, that list will be over 100 videos long. And so, Roth's quote today is a little bit pessimistic, but I am here to pump us up, to contextualize his pessimism and lift us up toward the literary renaissance that is going to happen because you believe in yourself and your writing. So let us now hop into it. Writing isn't hard work. It's a nightmare. Coal mining is hard work. This is a nightmare. There's a tremendous uncertainty that's built into the profession, a sustained level of doubt that supports you in some way. A good doctor isn't in a battle with his work. In most professions, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. With writing, it's always beginning again. Temperamentally, we need that newness. There is a lot of repetition in the work. In fact, one skill that every writer needs is the ability to sit still in the deeply uneventful business. And Roth is spitting straight facts here, everyone, because the number one reason people don't become great authors, the number one reason we don't have a literary renaissance right now is not diversity quotas and publishing houses and social media and all of that stuff. It's because there are not enough writers out there who are willing to be writers, which requires you to sit and do nothing, to sit still in a chair for hours a day for decades. And as a writing community, we've done everything we can to move away from that. That's why low-level genre fiction is such a joke, because I've written fun stuff before, and when I sit down and write something fun, I can just jam out. I can turn on my favorite music, I could be even talking to someone, and I could just be writing and working through something. But if you want to write something transformative, then you need to go fishing for a huge idea. You need to be receptive and work with an idea that's going to carry the weight of something that could be potentially timeless. And then in the thousands of hours that you are revising, you're going to have to be sitting still in silence or with whatever music you are playing and focus deeply on adding contrast and symbolism and authenticity and whatever other elements you are putting into the story. That is hard work. Solitary confinement is a punishment in prison. It's the worst thing that can happen to someone. You get sent to solitary. We willingly put ourselves in that position. And like I said, many of us, when we are in our writing room, aren't actually writing and are doing other things. But if you are committed to it, it is very painful at times. It really tests your ability to focus. Because I know, for instance, 4 months ago or so, my wife had our first baby. And the first 2 months were absolute chaos. I barely wrote anything. And if I did, it was trash. And for the last 6 or 7 weeks, I've been starting to get back into the practice. But just taking 3 months off from serious writing was insane in the sense that it felt like I was back at ground zero when I started trying to write on a schedule again. I use a literal MP3 player with no Wi-Fi or anything while I write, but I was always switching the song. I was looking around the room, daydreaming, looking out the window. And it took me a couple weeks to get back into the groove. And I think it would probably take months if I had never done that before, because writing is partially a muscle thing. Once you know how to do it and get into the flow, you know it. But from what I can tell, many people have never reached that point. And it's not just a nightmare that you have to go sit in solitary confinement. It's a nightmare because, as Roth said, there's a tremendous uncertainty built into it all. It is such a high-pressure game, and we've tried to divert a lot of that tension away with MFA programs and fellowships and professor jobs and grants to let writers sit and think and not have to worry about money. But that's also, in most cases, been a disaster because it is that uncertainty that makes or breaks people. And the people that it makes, it gives them that edge. It gives them that chip on their shoulder. And doctors, whatever job you do, you don't have to deal with that. Maybe your job is super risky, but you don't have to worry that if this one thing you do doesn't perform well, that it could tank your entire career, because that happens to authors. They write a bad book and people never trust them again. And I want to make sure that you don't read any of Philip Roth's bad books, because Roth is an OG. And so I have created a free guide to Philip Roth's best books and a reading order guide for new readers and experienced readers, plus 15 of Roth's favorite books. If you guys want that guide, it is free down in the description below. And I highly encourage you to get into Roth's work, or they never get a big publishing deal again. And when you look at the numbers of fiction authors that are getting deals in 2025, it's insane. I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but I got some new numbers, and only 75 fiction authors total, new fiction authors total, every single year get a deal that's over $50,000. And that includes all the book talk authors, all the romance, mystery, and all those authors. So when it comes to literary fiction, what, maybe 0 to 5 people every single year get initiated into the circle of being an author. And even if you get one deal that's worth $100,000, that doesn't mean your next deal is going to amount to that. And writing books, especially novels, is so weird, because as a doctor, you accumulate skills, and there is a new patient and a new thing all the time, but there's a pretty fast turnover rate. With the novel, most authors take 3 to 5 years to finish it, and then you have to start back at square one again with an entire new story. And unlike many other professions, we have no one to help us. A lot of the visual arts don't take 5,000 hours to complete one piece. And when you look at music or movies or all of that, it usually has a massive team supporting it. So if you think about it, we are alone with no support. We have to sit alone in a room. We are writing in a dying industry. It's hard on our bodies. We have to force our dopamine system to focus and work against everything that we are being programmed to do with technology every day, all in the hopes that we are one of the 0 to 5 people that actually make it. And so all of that breaks people. All of that prevents people from actually taking themselves seriously, because if you take yourself seriously and your work, and you will find that energy. I see people complaining on Substack all the time. I call it writing bitch assness. There are so many bitch ass writers out there who complain about the industry, complain about that. And that's cool, but that isn't the mentality that's going to get you in the chair every single day. That isn't a mentality of someone who believes in their work. People who believe don't quit, and most of the time don't complain. They keep trying to make it happen because they've made a choice. They know this is right for them, and they're going to continue no matter if they get rewarded at all. And writing, as Murakami says, is an endurance sport. I remember some of my biggest writing bouts, and I'm sure you guys do too, where I went 8 to 10 hours of just pure force, and I was totally washed. I felt like it was as big of an impact as if I had went and partied, or like went and run a marathon or something like that. Totally exhausted. But then there are people out there who do that every single day and build up that endurance and have that toughness. But even if you have that, it's still negatively affecting you. And so, not to be engaging in these sad boy cliches, but our art is killing us. There is no retirement plan. There's not going to be a retirement ceremony where you get a pin or get some adulation. Most likely, you're going to continue toiling away in hopes of bringing light to just a small handful of people. And that is the mission of the literary renaissance. I need 50,000 people like you who believe in themselves, who are willing to step into the fire, walk through the ice, ascend the mountain, because you don't need to reach millions of people to kick off a literary renaissance. If 50,000 authors activate 5,000 readers, we just created 250 million readers, everybody. Did you hear what I just said? Imagine if 250 million people out in the world had their lives transformed by literature. There would be a shift in reality if that happened. And so there are tens of thousands of writers that watch this channel and have heard this message before. And now it's up to you to play your part. You don't need to be a celebrity, but what you need to do is be a soldier in the literary renaissance. Thank you guys for all the support. If you guys want to join my book club, take my writing and literature courses, read some of my writing, and discover a ton of other cool stuff that is too meta, too deep, or too controversial for YouTube, you should head over to my Substack where the literary renaissance is happening. Sherman Alexie, George Saunders, David White, and countless other authors are over there. You should be too, whether you are a reader or a writer. I have free content over there and paid content over there. So if you want to support me, I would love that. My dream is to be able to do this full time one day, but my dream is first and foremost to create a literary renaissance. And so thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you very soon in the next video.